Hi everyone. This is the 5 minute dissertation pitch video thing that I have to film. Yeah, I've got some notes on my phone here, and I'm just going to be talking about my dissertation, how the ideas have changed over time, and the meetings that we had previously with Austin and James, and yeah, how that's changed my thoughts and what I'm going to write about. So the whole idea of my pitch originally was all about looking at stoner comedy movies and event and yeah, that's the history of stoner comedy films as a genre as a whole, and kind of how that's changed over time. And then alongside that, sort of a contextual analysis, like looking back at the periods it was released in, how society's opinions, specifically in America, have changed over this time. So if we look at 70s, you have the start of the stoner comedy movie with Cheech and Chong making their first feature films. So it was pretty much like an all-time high. And then in the 80s, under Ronald Reagan, the war on drugs started. But there were still stoner comedies, but just without the use of weed in them. So films like Wayne's World and Bill and Ted could be classed as stoner comedies as well. And then looking at the 90s and early 2000s with what I'd call the golden age of stoner films, with Clerks and Mallrats, films like The Big Lebowski as well. Another thing I was going to do was examine the tropes and how they've changed over the years. So Cheech and Chong pioneering the buddy stoner comedy movie. The gist of it is mostly just two best friends hanging out and getting into shenanigans. So like, again, films like Friday, Superbad, Harold and Kumar all come into that. Another thing I've got noted down here is Kevin Smith's Clerks and how it legitimized the genre with an all-time great script and smart, snappy dialogue. To me personally, it showed that stoner films could be just more than dumb, stupid comedies and could actually have some like depth to them. Another note I've got here is how much times have changed. Obviously, in the US, recreational use of marijuana is now legal in over 19 states. And the racial connotations of these films, like even with marijuana being legal, over 40,000 Americans are still currently behind bars for marijuana related offenses. This could link to being a systematic racism issue, especially taking place in America. Yeah, so how that's all kind of changed over time is I think it was Austin who gave me the idea because obviously this is quite a big task to undertake, looking at over 4 decades of a specific genre. He said to focus in, do a case study on 3 films in particular. So what I'm going to do is look at a film from the 70s, then maybe the 90s, and then the early 2000s, and then obviously filling in the gaps with the timeline of how attitudes have changed towards that as well. I haven't 100% finalized what those case studies is going to be. Obviously, one of them, the one I'm going to look at in the 90s, will be Kevin Smith's Clerks, just because that's my favorite film of all time. And I feel like there's quite a lot to say about it. Maybe the 2000s, like with your modern one, could be something to do with Seth Rogen, a film he's produced, because the link between Seth Rogen and Kevin Smith is they're both big, successful movie directors and stars, and they're both big advocates for the legalization of marijuana in America as well. And I think that's really affected it and changed how people think about it, changed their mind of what a stoner could be. Because here are these two very well-educated, intelligent, talented men who, really go against the stereotype of what a stoner normally is. In terms of an actual research question, I'm still working out the logistics of that, but the working title currently is the evolution of stoner comedies and the role it has played in reducing the criminalization of marijuana in the US. But again, that's just a working title that can be chopped and changed the more I get into it, really. So that's pretty much everything. Thanks very much.